Hey everyone, welcome to Office Hours. I am Jeff Blankenberg, and as I have for the last few weeks in a row now, I have Ryan Lowe here joining me. Welcome, Ryan.
Thank you.
I also have Annette with us here today. Annette, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, as we always do, we're waiting for some questions to come into the comments. We don't have any just yet. But one of the things that I've been thinking about is, well, let's just start this as a conversation. So, Ryan, you have joined our team. How long you been here now? What, 5 weeks?
I think 6 weeks, something like that. Yeah.
And how many pieces of Alexa apparel do you own?
0.
See, this is a
None.
problem we're going to have to remedy. Every time I see you on camera, I'm like, I should really solve that problem for him.
You really should.
But it reminds me, and this is normally we take questions from the audience, but I have a question for the audience today. Those of you that got here early. I'm going to get Ryan hooked up with some stuff. Maybe this sweatshirt, maybe some t-shirts. We'll get some stuff sent out to him here really soon. But my big question for everybody is, does anybody else want this kind of stuff? Maybe not this sweatshirt specifically. I mean, this is nice and comfortable, but t-shirts with like cool voice developer sayings on them, or maybe the Alexa logo, or we have a bunch of other cool artwork that we use all the time. You've seen it on our website, like rocket ships and voice stuff and whatever. PhelpsInc.net says for sure. Milton likes my sweatshirt. But I'm always curious if people, like if I got this stuff listed on Amazon and you could order it using your Prime subscription and all the other stuff. Yeah, see, so DJ MKY just said the same thing. What's an apparel shop that developers can buy from too? I agree. Yeah. Costa wants one of these. All right, so it sounds like I've got some motivation, some stuff. Oxygen Box says we used to get hoodies for publishing skills. I do remember those days. I have a few of those hoodies. But when you think about a store that now has over 130,000 skills in it, it would be tricky to provide a hoodie for every single skill. That's a lot. But that being said, I think that at a minimum, if we made them available for purchase at what we'll call a reasonable price, because we wouldn't have to be in the business of making a profit just to make them available. But TradeLast says he does his yard work in his I Love AWS shirt now, and it's getting kind of old. So yeah, maybe it's time to upgrade, get some people some stuff. Well, I'll start with you, Ryan, and then we'll take it from there. Annette, do you have any stuff?
Yeah, I agree. Like t-shirts would be great.
Do you have any yourself?
I have a couple t-shirts, but they're like probably a couple years old. So it'd be always great to get like new designs, new swag, get the excitement going.
Right. The most recent one that I've made is the Alexa Blue. It's just an Alexa Blue t-shirt, and then it just has this logo kind of big across the chest. But we need to come up with something that's kind of more clever, more creative. What we should do, I'm not promising this, so don't start on a project, anybody. But what we should do is take developer submissions and then pick a design of the month or something like that, and then use their artwork as the thing. And I don't know how all that works. I'm sure I need a lawyer involved to figure that out. But that seems like it would be a cool thing to do too. All right, so welcome everybody. I don't think we have any specific tech questions just yet. But just to remind everybody who we are here on the screen. My name is Jeff Blankenberg. Ryan Lowe has recently joined my team. We talked about 6 weeks ago. And our job is this is a good part of that, right? It's developer outreach. We're here to make sure that you guys have a target to direct your questions, and we're here to help build a community. So if you want to build things like a user group in your town, or if you want to grow your skill experience, we're the guys for that. And I hope that we'll continue to grow our team. Annette is on our developer advocacy team, which is very similar, very related, but often, and I'm going to let you describe it, Annette, but I feel like from my perspective, often you are the person that these folks interact with once they have a skill, once they've started building or are trying to publish a skill. So how do you best describe your role?
So I guess, yes, I do help developers while they have a skill, they're building the skill, and when they submit it to certification. But if you have any questions about Alexa skills in general, and before you build it, you're like, oh, what are the policy requirements? How do I add this thing into the skill? You can also reach out to my team. And we're the people that answers all your question on the Alexa contact us page. So
Perfect.
yes, we are real humans who
Yes.
are finding answers for you. We're not robots. And we also like answer questions on the forum. So it's kind of like more of a, you don't have to wait for the Twitch stream to get help. We're available to you like 24/7. We have teams globally, so I guess we always have someone on the clock, and we try to get back to your answers within 2 to 3 business days. So we are here for
We
you.
cover all the time zones.
Yes.
Maybe not specifically all of them, but like there's someone that's
Most of
during
them, yeah.
all of them, actually, is a better way to say it. All right, awesome. So I don't think I have any other questions other than about apparel, which is great. This is the kind of good feedback that I can use as I'm inside Amazon. We're going through a process right now called OP1, and it really defines kind of what we're looking at over the next 18 months as far as planning and budgeting and everything else goes. And so these kinds of activities, I more or less have to outline and decide now in order to get funding to be able to pull those things off for 2022. So that's why I ask these kinds of questions, so I can include them in the documents that I write. All right, so Tamer Karatekin says, hey, I've recently started to build our own custom skilled chatbot with ASK. I find some great tutorials online for custom skill SDK, but they are slightly outdated perhaps. I get the audio only response when I try the invocation work, so I don't think my custom skill gets triggered. I want to make sure that I understand this, Tamer Karatekin on Twitch. I haven't seen your name before, so welcome. I feel like you are trying to talk to your skill. So you're saying something like, let's say your skill is called My Skill, just as an example. So you type something into the simulator or talk to your device, something like open my skill. And then you're getting a response, and you're getting the audio only response. And that, do you know what they mean by that? Is that a shorthand for something that I'm not remembering?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. If you can give us more information, that would be great in the chats.
Yeah, let's hope maybe they can expand in the chat. I think that would be good. There was something.
If I could,
yeah,
I wanted to add on to that though, really quick.
Go for it.
So one of the things that I'm doing as I'm onboarding to all things Alexa is I'm going through the tutorials myself. And one of the things that I'm working on is doing an audit of all the tutorials. So I would love specifically your feedback, and you can find me on Slack. You should be able to find me easily. But just please send me the feedback of what tutorial you were following and what you found, because I would love to know and add that to my documentation, because that's one of the things that I want to do is make sure that our tutorials are at a super high bar. So love the feedback. And that goes for everybody.
And I threw it up on the screen here, but if you aren't familiar with our Slack, you can join and find it at alexa.design/Slack. There's a community of, we are now over 1,300 people in that community, which is amazing to me, considering we only just started this in March. So it feels really good that we've got this kind of community growth and that people are there and they're participating and asking questions, and most importantly, getting answers. So if you are stuck and you're not able to find it, I would recommend jumping into the Slack and trying to ask a few of your questions there. It's also easier to provide links and screenshots and all that kind of stuff there versus the chat that we're using here. Somebody mentioned that there's also, somebody mentioned Amazon.YesIntent early in the chat. I think my interpretation of that message, because that's, Fabio wants to know, could you talk about the yes intent? Yes, I thought you were referencing like something cool to put on a shirt. Like, do you want me to offer apparel? And your answer was Amazon.YesIntent. I thought that's what you were saying as a joke, but you want me to talk about the yes intent. I can do that. I've used it in a number of my skills, but it's meant to catch affirmatives. So it's not just yes, but it's all the uh-huh and yep and those kinds of things. And it's pre-trained to handle all of those things for you. You can always add additional terms to it, of course, if you want to. But that's the purpose of the Amazon yes intent. There's a no intent as well. that handles all of the negatives, affirmatives and negatives. So no, that kind of stuff. All of those flow through to the no intent. I generally find, though, as a practice, when you're building voice interactions, is that yes and no questions are often a sign that you're maybe not headed in the right direction. There are certainly exceptions to that, but in general, one of the examples I use is asking the user something like, "Can I help you with anything else?" That is a yes/no question, right? You can either help or can't help, and the answer they're going to give you is yes or no. But that's not really the answer you want. What you want is, what can I help you with next? And so by phrasing your questions differently, you can get to the thing that they want. The reason I bring that up specifically is because if you ask that yes/no question, can I help you with anything else? And they say yes. Now what? What are you going to do now? Now you have to say, okay, what is it that I can help you with? And so you're better off just asking those kinds of questions first, and they can always say something like, no, thank you, or I'm done, or whatever, to get out of that experience. So that's my recommendation. That being said, there are times where you want to confirm things. Are you done with your order? Are you sure you're done with this pizza? Those kinds of situations where you really do need the user to confirm whether or not they're finished or completed with something. Yes, no works great for that. But if you find yourself using it regularly, it can get tricky. So hopefully that answers that, Fabio. If you have other questions, I'm happy to answer them. In the meantime, I'm going to move on to Tapster's question from Twitch. They have a question about the Amazon select intent. Showing a list, and I want to allow the user to say the third one, but also number 1 or number 2, which it doesn't seem to support. Is there a best practice to do this? I made 2 intents and then used Amazon ordinal and Amazon number, which works okay, but it feels like the Amazon select intent should work, shouldn't it? Annette, do you have any knowledge about this intent? Because I need 30 seconds to research it, because I don't think I've ever used the Amazon select intent. Might have been muted. I don't know if you are actually.
Yeah,
I haven't
used it either. So
I'm taking a quick glance at the docs here just to see and remind myself what that one is, because Amazon.select.
At first glance, it looks like it would solve what they're after.
Yeah. But this feels like it's designed to work specifically with formatted lists. I don't know if it's just collecting. Let's see. I'm going to look at this tutorial. Select items. There's a piece of this that feels like it's missing to me. More navigate home. No, none of that. This feels to me like it's supposed to be used in conjunction with a list structure. So my first question, of course, is, are you using something like that? This is interesting. I don't know how I missed this one, but I've never used this before. Well, I know what I'm going to learn tomorrow. I mean, the general idea here makes sense to me, but the select intent lets users indicate when they want to select an item. This has 4 slots that collect information about what the user wants, and so it includes anaphore, which is things like this and that. And those are the ones that I'm caught up on, because how does it possibly know, how would you as a developer know what this or that is? Unless there is a obvious and highlighted structure, list structure on the screen. But what I'm not seeing here in any of this documentation is anything about a list structure that you would create. Yeah, this is a tricky one. This isn't something you've seen, Ryan?
I've seen it. I haven't used it yet. So I may be in the same boat as you and trying this out.
This feels like a thing that was an advent of something that would happen with APL, right? Like APL has list structures. And my thought is, as it goes through that list, it highlights each item. So then things like this and that makes sense, and first and last makes sense. But if you were just building this like from scratch on your own, I feel like this would be a very challenging thing to understand how it works. Yeah, I'm going to have to dig into this one. I apologize that I don't have a better answer for this one. Tapster, I feel like I'm generally very knowledgeable about our built-in structures, and this one is just, this has escaped me. I'm really sorry about that. So I'm showing a list, and I want to allow the user to say the third one, but also number 1 or number 2, which it seems it doesn't support. Is there a best practice? So as I look at this, you're right. It does not have that specific structure built in, which is like number 1, number 2, whatever. So what you could do is use the select intent most of the time, but then also have an Amazon number slot. Like it could be a completely different intent or a different set of utterances inside the same intent. Probably that makes more sense. And then in your code, you just have to check to see which one got a value. Was it the select intent values, or was it some other Amazon.number slot? That seems to be the thing that I would lean into, at least initially, based on what I'm seeing here. Because it does handle this, that. It handles ordinals. It handles relative positions like top and last or bottom. And then it also has some visual mode triggers for things like show the first option or display that item. But that seems to be the extent of that intent. So if you want number 1, number 2, which is the core of your question, I think I would just have a separate set of utterances in the same intent that is designed to handle those specific situations. And then in my code, I have to look at, was it this or was it that, and take action based on that. I think that's what I would do.
Yeah. I think where I've seen this used, and I may be completely wrong, but on my Echo Show 10, when I'm asking it for recipes that contain blah, 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 and it comes up with a list of 3 items, and I could say, oh, I want the first one, or give me the last one. I believe that's where this is used, and it seems to me like it would have to reference some sort of list so it would know what the last one was.
Right.
Or so you would know what the last one was.
Exactly right. Yeah. So I feel like there must be some structure at times, but it doesn't seem like it's required based on what I just read. But I need to put that to practice. So I'm going to play around with that. Maybe this afternoon. I've got a bunch of meetings, but if not today, tomorrow morning. I have every intention of getting back to live coding in the morning. And so this feels like a really cool thing for me to work on tomorrow morning. So tune in for that. By the way, if you're not following me personally on things like YouTube or LinkedIn or Twitch, that's where it will happen. I don't do morning live codings on our standard Alexa channels like you're watching us right now. They'll be on my own personal channels, but you're welcome to find me there if you'd like. All right, so we're going to move on from that, but I think I've led you in the right direction. That's probably the solution I'll use, but I'm going to play with it tomorrow morning to get a better feel. DJMKY says, I could have sworn I saw an Alexa top with a Nike logo on it on the sleeve. You are correct. All of us except Ryan, I'm going to get Ryan one of these two, it's a navy blue polo shirt, has the Alexa logo right here, has a Nike swoosh on the sleeve. We use that for most of our presentations. So that's a pretty common shirt to see around. Yeah, in fact, I wear that a lot, even here in office hours and Alexa and Friends and stuff like that. So, all right, on YouTube, Naik, N-A-I-K, Naik, I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce that. I hope I didn't murder it. Hi, Jeff. Is privacy policy and terms of use mandatory for giving the skill for certification? Like if we miss out on one of the URLs, will it still be accepted? I have my suspicions about that, but I feel like Annette will have the answer to that. So I'm going to let her take that one.
Yeah, so for the privacy policy, there is actually a good link that will tell you whether or not your skill needs it. I'm going to share it with Jeff so he can share with the chat. Cool. So basically, if you have account linking or if your skill collects personal information or information about the users in any way, you would have to have a privacy policy URL in order for it to pass certification. And for the terms of use condition, that's not required. That's mostly more based on you, whether or not you want to tell the user, like, if you're using my skill, you have to adhere to these, but that one, it's not a requirement.
Okay, cool. Have you seen, are there any resources in our tech docs or anything for like a standardized set of language that people could use if they want to create their own privacy policy? Because I would imagine most developers are not lawyers, don't have the intimate knowledge about what should or shouldn't be in a privacy policy. I include myself in this group. Do we provide anything like that?
Yeah, for sure. Like, we get that question a lot, actually, and we don't have any resources or samples of what a privacy policy should look like. But usually I direct users to just our general Alexa privacy policy to kind of see that as like a guideline and kind of just a sample of what it should look like. It doesn't have to be like the same detailed, but it's
Right.
like a good, like, okay, this could be the structure and this could be the information that I should include in mine.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. I think as I think about feedback that I could deliver to our product team, I would imagine a lot of developers are facing this same problem. As you said, a lot of them reach out and say, I don't even know what to do with a privacy policy. Where do I start? It seems like if we're already creating a page in the store for them, right, for their skill and for whatever else, it seems like it would be very interesting for them to opt in and say, I just want you to create a privacy policy for me that's the standard boilerplate normal one that is also hosted for them, right? So they don't have to go find and set up an S3 bucket. And like, I mean, that's what I did, right? I had to set up an S3 bucket, set up the hosted website version of that S3 bucket, create an HTML document, put it, like, it's a lot of work to just have a privacy policy that I'm only doing because you're making me. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have done it at all. So it's it's an interesting piece. I'm going to write that down as something we should think about. Okay, so Tamer Karatekin this is the first office hours for them. So all right, so yeah, so if they're seeing audio only, that means it's playing something like an MP3. It could also mean so I see in a simulator they're getting audio only response. That often too can just be an error sound, which means it's probably not hitting your back end or was unable to find your back end in some way. So that's my guess there, and I would make sure that you have your interaction model, your resources pointing directly to your specific Lambda function, whether that's an Alexa hosted solution or whether you hosted it yourself. That's a common thing that I see there is when you type in your invocation name, open your invocation name, and then you just get the audio only response. That's usually a result of it not being able to find your backend service. All right. Fabio says, I received an email with the subject, exclusive feedback from in-house experts for you. Wants to know if it was you, Annette. Did you send that email? I'm guessing that was probably an automated email of some kind. But do you get tagged on some of those sometimes?
Yeah, so we actually have, it's not my team directly, but there is a separate team that will pick skills who has failed like certification for like the same issues, or if they see that your skill has like good potential for ISV, that they will also reach out to you that way. So there's actually multiple other teams besides my team that does outreach support too. So depending on what that message is for you, it could be like a message that's telling you like, oh, your skill is great for ISP, or these are how you can like implement other like APL or different things you want in your skill. So there's, it could be another team from that, but yeah.
Got it. Going to welcome a couple of other people that have joined here. It sounds like Tamer Karatekin is actually going to join us on Slack also, so that I think that'll help them quite a bit in finding their answers. The one and only Paul Cutzinger is in the house. He's over on LinkedIn, but he says hello to everyone. So welcome, Paul. Matthew Harmon on YouTube is here too. Let's see. KL New is saying, hello, I'm bringing you some features and improvements that a lot of people would love to have on Alexa. Number one, improvement of announcements. It would be nice to be able to choose the Echo device on which you want to send an announcement. For example, Alexa says it's time to eat in the living room, or Alexa says it's time to go to sleep in Theo's room. It'd be nice if you could add a menu in the Alexa app so you can choose which device you want to send the announcement to. I agree. I think that would be kind of nice. I thought we could do that. Maybe I'm wrong though. If I say, I have to think of I can't remember the names of my devices right now. I keep moving them around in my house, so I'm not gonna try that right now. But I feel like I can tell it to play music in a specific room. It feels like I could announce something in a specific room.
No, you can drop in a specific room. But whenever we use announcements a lot in our house to round up the kids and everything else, and it does seem to play everywhere. My beef is that it plays at the one that I just talked to, so I hear my voice bouncing right back at me, and I'm like, I don't need it to be playing right here. But yeah, I haven't figured out a way to do announcement in just a specific room, but I don't know if I've tried. So that's an interesting question.
Yeah, I'll play with that one too. DJ MKY says, I'm trying to integrate Amazon Pay with my Alexa skill. It's a lot of connecting the dots. Are there any plans to make its integration better or have a faster pathway to integration? I agree. It is a bit of a challenge. There's accounts you need to set up. There's a bunch of other stuff that you need to go through in order to make that all happen. But I don't know of anything specifically about making it easier or faster or better. But I will take that as feedback, and that's something we can share with the Amazon Pay team. Actually, the woman that used to run the Amazon Pay marketing organization is now the woman running my organization, and so I feel like she should have some good connections there. So I'll reach out to her. I have a meeting with her at 2:00 today, and I'll see what I can come up with for you. Back to the Amazon select intent. Tapster says he made 2 intents, one with the ordinal and the other one with Amazon.number, which works, but it just seemed the select intents would work for numbers too. Yeah, we'll gather this up and talk to them about that. But I feel like you should still use the select intent because it'll solve your ordinal and some of the other cases. And then you just add some utterances that only use a number. If you guys haven't mixed and matched this, I do this all the time where I'll have 10 utterances that are there to collect. Well, here's a good example. A while back, I was building an entire casino for Alexa, right? All voice-based casino. And when you play roulette, you have to say, I want to put 10 coins on red. And so I have some intent, some utterances in that intent that are what color did they want to put it on, or what position, right? I had a position slot. And so it was things like red, black, odd, even, row 1, row 2, row 3, as well as all the numbers. So you could put it just on the spot that was 22 or whatever. So I need to know the position, but I also need to be able to know the amount or the bet that you're making. So is it 10 coins? Is it 20 coins? Whatever. And so I had 3 sets of utterances inside that interaction model. I want to bet on red. Okay, and if you say that, then I redirect you and say, okay, how many do you want to bet? Or you might say, I want to play roulette, bet 7. And it's like, okay, you're betting 7 on what? And then I prompt you for what position you want. And then I have a third one, which mixes and matches those 2 together. And so you could have intents that only collect a certain slot type or only collected another slot type, and then use that either through dialogue management, the dialogue directives that are there in the interaction model, or in your code, you could just catch the values and then reprompt the user with what you need. In either case, that should be successful. But I think if you like the select intent, you just want one little extra thing, all I would do is add some extra utterances to that, with that number slot, and that should get you on your way. But again, I haven't played with it, so I don't want to steer you in the wrong direction, but that's where I would start first. All right, trade last. I was in a situation where an intent with a built-in slot type, Amazon.author, was not being selected in favor of other totally unrelated intents, even though the desired intent was much more relevant. Utterance Profiler showed the desired intent is considered but not selected. Is there any way to bias the training in a case like this? For example, uttering Shakespeare selected the start intent, whose examples were start, start game, and begin, when realistically it should hit Amazon.author. But it did consider a fully resolved William Shakespeare in the author intent. My first go-to on this, and I'd love Annette and Ryan's opinions on this too, but my first go-to on this would have been to add, I would overload Amazon.author, and I would actually add that as another value. So you can customize built-in intents or built-in slot types. So even though we say it's Amazon.author, and there is without a doubt in my mind that Shakespeare is in that list, you could just add Shakespeare as a additional custom value for that slot for your skill, and that should help bias it in the right direction. So, Trey, Last, you and I have talked about a billion things over the years. My initial guess is you've probably tried that, but if you didn't try that, I'd be interested to know if that changes your machine learning bias to push just the word Shakespeare over to the author slot versus being your start intent. So what do you guys think?
That's what popped in my head. Extending it, which is not great because you'd have to do that for every single author in your data set.
Right. That's the big problem with a lot of this stuff, is that you don't know, without testing all the possibilities, which ones are going to bias the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I would agree with definitely testing it to see if it helps by adding like Shakespeare as an additional slot. So,
and
mm-hmm.
One of the things that that I always recommend for folks is in the developer tools at developer.amazon.com, we do have a testing tool, and what it allows you to do is create tests and tell it what your expected outcome is. What I generally do in these kinds of situations is I will load it with 20, 30, 50 things before I've built anything, and they all fail. Then I will go build the thing that I think I should build, and I run it again to see if what I built actually, satisfies whatever test I have. This is normal testing behavior when we're thinking about writing code. But what's nice about this is that I have those tests from day one, right? That's where I start. I say it should hit this intent, it should give me this result. And if it ever breaks, I can go back and be like, oh, what did I just break? What did I just change that would make that thing happen? Because we're constantly growing and evolving our skill. We may add a whole new intent with new slots, and all of those things can completely shift the bias of the model to go to a different location. So using those testing tools, while it can seem like, oh, that's going to take me so much longer or it's tedious, I promise you it will save you more time than it costs you in the long run. So something to consider. So Miguel Costa says, you use the select intent on multimodal stuff when you have things on the screen. That makes total sense to me, but I haven't seen specifically how that works exactly. So we'll play with that. All right. DJ MKY says it would be cool to get a privacy template generator. Agreed. Steph Sharp, who has been a guest host on here before, says the select intent only supports ordinal for list position at this time, so your method of also using Amazon number is the best practice for the scenario you described. Oh, she is one of our solution architects over on our business development side of the company. Realistically, what it means is that she is building and working with a bunch of the bigger brands that are doing stuff with Alexa and helping them kind of navigate and build really cool experiences on Alexa. And so she's about as knowledgeable as you can get in this game, and having her confirm my suspicions feels pretty good. So that's awesome. Swagwy Mongwi, it's an awesome name, on Twitch says, hello, do you think it would be possible to customize the trigger word instead of those already available? The answer is no, for a variety of technical and anthropological reasons. But there are 5 options now available. It's traditionally been 4, but just before Alexa Live, we announced the 5th one. So there is Echo, Alexa, Amazon, Computer, and the new 5th one is Ziggy. So if you guys haven't played with that or haven't looked in your app to try to change your wake word on a device, you can now use the word Ziggy. Now, I assume they're not referring to the comic from the 50s and 60s. I think they're probably more likely referring to the guy inside the computer on the TV show Quantum Leap. I don't know if anybody watched that TV show, but that's my guess for where the Ziggy reference comes from. Although I haven't seen that actually written down. That's just my guess.
It has to be.
Right? That would be my guess.
It was his assistant as he was traveling through time.
Right, and it was a voice-based device that he was kind of
yeah, exactly.
Okay. So Steph and TradeLast are having a conversation, so I'm skipping over that stuff since they're working together. Announcements are for all devices, and there's no way to specify a singular device at this time. Good clarification. Benjamin confirms that. All right. Nikit Naik says, Jeff, suppose I want Alexa to speak in a language which has not been included yet and would like to provide a grammar for that particular language. Is there a portal, a way to reach out with that idea? If you specifically want Alexa devices to be able to support this, there isn't a great way to make that happen. There's a great deal of research and time and energy that goes into making sure that our languages work well in the locales they work in. And so that's why you see a somewhat slow rollout of new languages. That being said, if you just want to build a voice or chatbot that supports a specific language, you might be better off looking at something like Amazon Lex combined with Polly. There's a much larger number of languages supported there than there are with Alexa. And that might be a direction you could go. But if you're looking specifically to work on Alexa, I haven't seen anything that would light a fire or move things faster on a specific language that you're interested in. In fact, one of the top pieces of feedback that we have on user voice is support for the Russian language. So there's no shortage of desire, but they are working as diligently as they can to make sure that it works fantastically in each individual language. So hopefully that's a sufficient answer for you. But if you really want to reach out and ask about a very specific language, I would recommend going to alexa.uservoice.com. I don't think I have a banner for that. Alexa.uservoice.com. I do not have one.
Alexa.design/uservoice also gets you there.
Oh, it does. Nice.
Yeah, I just tested it. There's a reasonable guess.
Yeah. We try to cover those as much as we can.
Yeah, the newest language that we're releasing is actually Arabic. So if you're interested in building skills for Arabic, you can do that now.
Yep. Yeah. Arabic was just released early July, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. And I just lost it. It just scrolled on me. And it was Enrique Otia Barbera on YouTube says, hi, do you know if it's possible to build a skill that receives data from the camera of the Alexa device? I have not found information about how I could code for this. Enrique, you have scoured the web and you found exactly all of the information we've provided about using the camera. That is not something that's available yet today. I can think of 4 billion use cases. My number one of which would be making TikTok videos. I think that would be an absolutely phenomenal use of Echo devices around the world. But that is not something that we expose yet at this point. So two things that every developer has asked me for are, can I get the raw recording or audio from the microphone? And can I interact or use the camera in some way? And for a variety of privacy and security reasons, we don't expose those things today. I'm not saying we won't ever support those things. But as of today, that is not something that is possible. So I'm glad. I thank you for your interest, but not something that that you can do just yet. Let's see. A lot of this conversation on Twitch is between Steph and TradeLast, which is really interesting. If you guys aren't on Twitch, they are really unpacking how to solve this author problem that he was describing. But in the spirit of time, I'm not going to drag everybody into that. But it is very interesting conversation. So Gold Zulu agrees with my Quantum Leap reference. Tapster thinks maybe it's a reference to Ziggy Stardust, which is the name of a David Bowie album. Maybe. Buck Rogers would be another cool name. But let's see. Any voice-based LED base for making some cool mementos? Startup, I don't know. Oh, actually, startups here. I got to show you guys this. I haven't dug in to entirely all the data I need to talk about on this. Let's see if we can find it. Oh, yeah, okay. So I want to show you guys this box. This is a U.S. Postal Service box. This was dropped in the mail on November 5th. November 5th. It came back to my house yesterday. So this has been traveling through the U.S. and global postal system in this fine condition. This is not how I sent it, I promise. For 9 months. 9 months. What's inside this box, I haven't opened it yet, is an Echo Dot that I sent to Startup Sanatana, one of our guests here on Twitch, in November as a prize for something that I was doing on Twitch at the time. It looks like it made many stops. There's writing all over this box. I didn't send it with any of this writing on this box. This was a clean, brand new priority mailbox when I sent it. But it appears, based on what I can tell on this box, that it was just never picked up. And so it is being returned as a result. So, yeah, unclaimed. Unclaimed. So startup, I apologize. I have your Echo Dot though. It did arrive back here. Okay. Swagui Mongui. This is one of my. I don't. Is it Swagui Mongui? I don't know how to pronounce that. But is it possible to ask Alexa to take a break when the user needs time to think about an answer? The user can say wait or pause or 1 second. The system will flash amber until the user says okay, and then the conversation flow resumes. So the only solution that I've seen to this was actually announced at Alexa Live this year, which allows you to extend the standard waiting period from 5 seconds to 10 seconds. There is not, but you do it before they ask. So it's not a user-initiated kind of thing. It's a developer-initiated thing. But if you're building a trivia game where people need some time to think, you can extend that to 10 seconds now. But that seems to be the only kind of lever that we can pull to give people a little more time to think about this.
That's also like the third highest user voice request,
right,
by the way. So you can go and upvote that more.
It is really a tricky problem though, because how long does something get paused, right? And if I say, hold on a second, and then I get distracted by my kids, and then something happens and I go outside and I don't come back to it for a day and a half, is it still waiting? Right? And does that mean the microphone's been open the whole time? And there's a whole bunch of challenges with that. So while I understand the need and the desire for the question, it can be very tricky to implement this in a proper way. So the new thing that we just launched for Alexa Live extends that user timeout. And that's something that you can choose as the developer, whether you want it to be 5 or whether you want it to be 10 seconds. But I think that's the extent of the flexibility that you have today.
Could you do something like, say, give me another 10 seconds, and then your skill could update, and is the user replying back?
Yeah, so that's something that I've experimented a lot with. I'm going to sit down. With a lot of my trivia games that I've built, is that in order to give someone 10 seconds manually, I have to play either silence or some audio file that is 10 seconds long. And then I can open the microphone again. But what I can't do is keep the microphone in a state where it's ready for you no matter when you talk. And that's really what we want, right? We want a Jeopardy style thing where the moment someone knows their answer, they just blurt it out without saying a wake word or anything else. They just say the thing that they're supposed to say. And that's the real problem. You could build a manual system today that says, I need 10 more seconds. And then the system comes in, it plays a 10-second audio file. But during those 10 seconds now, they can't interact without saying the wake word. And so unless we're training them to say the wake word, what really ends up happening is now they have to wait the full 10 seconds before the microphone will open again. So that's the real challenge. And I think that's something that a lot of people run into these days. And this is where a lot of the developer feedback that we get about, hey, I just wish I knew what the user's wake word was. This is why a lot of that feedback comes in, is because they need to train the user to say, Alexa and then their answer so that it wakes it up. But you can't just say, when you know your answer, say Alexa and then your answer, because if their wake word is computer, that's not going to work either. So you have to really understand what their wake word is to train them about how to interrupt that audio file or whatever it is you're playing. So that's something that I do quite often, where I'll just play like 30 seconds to give you time to think. But I have to remind you, like, hey, just say your wake word and your answer, and I'll take it whenever. Anyway, that was a long story on a short thing, but I think that's a big reason why we need to know what the user's wake word is. Okay, we still have so much stuff on here. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Fabio wants to know if we prefer our audience to be on YouTube or Twitch. We don't actually have a preference. We're happy that you're here at all. And so whether you want to be on Twitch or YouTube, we're also on Facebook. We're also on LinkedIn. So wherever you feel comfortable, you post your comments. They all come into one interface for us. So we don't necessarily have a preference. Go where you're comfortable, where you spend your time. I think that's great. Tradelast is talking about how he released a skill yesterday with a limited set of start intents. It was his first skill using Alexa entities. If you guys haven't seen this, it's kind of it's very, I don't remember what it's called. He can mention that in the chat. But it's basically an author quiz game. And so it picks a decade for you, and you have to pick an author that published a book in that decade. It's kind of a clever way to play a game, because he's using all of the knowledge and information that's hidden inside Alexa entities without having to store all of that data himself. So very, very kind of clever way to use that technology. All right. Let's see. Did it just scroll again on me? It did. Links people have shared. Do you guys know when you'll make Portuguese from Portugal available? No, I don't know the answer to that. I do know, obviously, we have Brazilian Portuguese, but we don't have a locale for Portugal at all yet. And we only have Spanish in Spain. So unfortunately, no, I don't have a roadmap for you there, Miguel. And I think you've been here before, but just as a reminder to everyone, whether or not I know whether or not that's coming in the future, I wouldn't be in a position to share that with you. We can't talk about future roadmap here. We can talk about things that have happened, and we can talk about what we hope will happen in 5 years. But talking about like when a language is going to come or not come is not something, like, I like my job more than I like sharing secrets. And so that's something that we can't do here, unfortunately. Oh, Enrique, here's a good question. Is it possible to build an Alexa skill that prints you a certain document that you have stored in your computer or in the cloud? I think technically, yes. The answer is yes. There are a number of good skills. There's one fantastic one. This is the first time I saw printing work, and it blew my mind. And it's called, I think it's called Coloring Pages is the skill. And now, again, it's been a few years, so I'm assuming it still exists. But the idea behind Coloring Pages is that you open the skill and you connected it to a printing skill. So like HP has one, Epson has one. And those skills know about what printers you have, right? They can look into your account, find your printer, but it's basically cloud-based printing. And once you've connected it to your printing skill, what the Coloring Pages skill will do is you say, print me a picture of an elephant. And it'll just go find a coloring page that has an elephant on it and send it to your printer and print it out, and then your kids can color it in or do whatever. In fact, Brian, this might work really well in your house.
Yeah, I'm taking notes.
Because it's super, super cool. And it's I think it's just using Google image search for line drawings. So if you haven't done that either, if your kids are ever looking for something to color, go to Google image search for line drawings, and you'll find pictures of everything. Print me a picture of Lightning McQueen or whatever. Like, it's all there. But it just grabs one of the first results from an image search. So the sky's the limit on what you can ask for. I'm sure you could say, find me an ostrich wearing a Mexican sombrero, and it could find one, right? Because it's just, I'm sure that image exists somewhere. Okay. So Startup is really asking quite vigorously about making an LED base for like a cool voice-based memento. I like the idea of this. So I'm imagining, I mean, we can take any of these things, but let's use my Pride Stormtrooper as an example. Okay, so I have this Stormtrooper, and I think what he's asking is there a way to take something and make this base LED-based, voice-based, so that I could control it with my voice? And then I think the next step beyond that is, have you guys ever seen like those, there's like bracelets and some other things that are like, you give it to your partner, and then anytime you push your hand on it or tap a button on the thing or whatever, like the other person's the paired item, theirs will light up or make like a little vibration or something. It's a way to remind them that you're thinking about them. I think that would be really cool, like the first 4 times, and then I'd be like, all right, cool, like cool, chill.
I've been married too long. Yeah.
But I think that's what Startup's asking about is like, is there any suggestions on how I might build something like that? Honestly, where I would start is with the Alexa Connect kit, something like that to build out yourself a prototype. But if you're talking about mass producing these, I mean, you're going to need to ultimately work with a like chip manufacturer and find inexpensive LEDs and all that. But I think the concept you have that either I could turn it on, like the lights I have behind me, I turn those on and off with my voice, or ideally allowing the person that gave it to you to control it or change the color of the light or whatever. Long time ago, Ryan in the net, I don't even know if you guys know this, but I used to have a lamp right here-ish. There was a lamp that I had that had an LED bulb in it. And I built a skill, and the skill was my name, which I found out broke some rules, and they took it down. But you could say, ask Jeff Blankenberg to turn the light to green. And I had utterances built into the skill that would capture that green color, and then it would, using APIs, talk directly to my light bulb to turn it green. And so it was really interactive and fun for the audience because the light would be changing all the time because everybody would be like playing with it. It was fun. It seems like that same mechanism could be used for a little light or device that you keep on your desk or on your bedside table that a friend or partner or whatever gave to you, and they could change the color. So when you come back in your room and you're like, oh, they just changed it to purple or whatever. That's my favorite color. That's so nice. So like those kinds of things I think would be kind of fun. Startup, I think let's start building some products. I like it. Sounds very cool. Milton says, I remember Jeff wanting to give devs programmatic access to the wake word 2 years ago. Yes. Welcome to my helm. No, that's not really true. But there are a number of things that we have to prioritize across this organization. And I haven't provided a compelling enough argument, I guess, to make that jump to the top of our list. But it is still on my list, and it is still something that I push for. That and things like identifying whether or not the user is in whisper mode would be dramatically impactful. Another one that we were just talking about the other day in Slack, there was another feature that someone, it was the wake word. Oh, it was where it came from. Was this skill kicked off from a routine? Was it kicked off by voice? Like, what is the source of this action that I'm taking? Because that also could potentially affect how or what you want to do. All right, why does Alexa Conversations skill support compound entities, such as, oh, I'm sorry. Why is it now is the name of the user? Does Alexa Conversations skills support compound entities, such as an apartment with 1 bathroom and 2 bedrooms? Yes, I think so. I think that's actually one of the core functions that it's meant for. Is the one I always go back to is pizza ordering, but I want a pizza with pepperoni, sausage, and double cheese. Like, it should be able to do that. That's what Alexa Conversations is designed to make easy for us. Could I do that with a standard invocation model? Sure, but it's hard. And Alexa Conversations, one of the things it's designed to do specifically is solve that kind of problem. Give me an apartment with 1 bathroom and 2 bedrooms. Yes, that seems very possible. I know, Ryan, you've kind of jumped into Alexa Conversations a little bit. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you're exactly right. It's designed so that you're not asking, do you want a house or an apartment? I want an apartment. Do you want 2 bedrooms or one? Like, it's designed to be able to be able to extract however much data you give it at any certain time. So you should be able to design a dialogue where you provided those would be three different arguments or slots at a time. And then you give it a bunch of different conversation dialogues to kind of figure out that mapping, and it should be able to do that. But those would be three separate parameters end up going to the API.
Yeah.
So it's not one compound entity, it'd be three separate ones.
Right. Boppy Roy on LinkedIn said, when can we expect to get an official Go SDK for Alexa? There's nothing against Go. We currently have SDKs for Python, JavaScript, and Java. There's an unofficial C# SDK. But Boppy, it feels to me like maybe you've got a project on your hands. I would love to see an unofficial Go SDK, but I don't expect that we're going to be building a Go SDK ourselves anytime soon. I think there are a couple of languages we would pick first. Maybe Ruby, maybe C#. I'm not trying to prioritize one over the other, but my feeling is that they would gravitate towards those that have the largest developer bases. And while Go is growing in popularity, I don't think it would be at least the next language. So I would not stay optimistic that that's going to happen soon. But you might look at the C# one and see if that's not something you could just build for yourself.
Yeah, I was going to say there shouldn't be any reason why you couldn't use Go today. Right. Ultimately, your Lambda is just receiving a big JSON and returns a big JSON. Yeah. And the SDK is just a really convenient way of assembling and reading the JSON.
It is.
So as long as, yeah.
Disassembling, reassembling some JSON. And as long as you're okay parsing some JSON, writing an SDK in your language actually wouldn't be very hard. In fact, before we had the JavaScript and the Python SDKs, there were many developers that had kind of built primitive versions of their own to solve that exact problem. Startup was asking how we would build something like that where an echo input is kind of the basis for the device. I have good and bad news about this. The good news is I think you could probably do it. The bad news is that from what I understand, at least currently, the echo input has been discontinued. So I don't know that I would build a business model around that specific device anytime soon. I haven't seen them available in the store since about March. I really like them. I have one here with the motion sensor attached to it. This is the only device that has a usable USB port on it that can actually do things. So this motion sensor can actually like trigger routines and do a bunch of other stuff. But I have not seen them in the store. I'm hoping they bring that or something like it back because it's great.
That's the Echo Flex, right? You just showed.
Oh, that was the Flex, yes. The Echo Input is the little round disc one.
Yeah, which I haven't seen in the store either. So I think they're both in the same category.
Yeah, I haven't. You're right. I haven't seen that one at all. Okay, we are almost at time. TradeLast says we need another one of your developer request list sessions, Jeff. Yes, that is coming, TradeLast. Don't worry. We will be collecting a lot of your feedback very soon. All right, and so yeah, Steph says the input went away a while ago. I have one that I use on my back porch. So it's already been paired. Like I have a Bluetooth amp that lives in my bedroom, which is right above the door to my porch. And then I have some like outdoor speakers. And so all I have to do is take the Echo input, which has a magnetic base, and I just stick it to, there's a, my power meter is right out there. So I have a little magnetic thing that just sticks right to my power meter and then uses Bluetooth to talk to those speakers. And so when you're sitting outside, you can just talk to Alexa, whatever. It's a nice outdoor
That's
solution.
Exactly what I'm trying to solve for now, but I can't get an Alexa input. For me, it's going to be controlling Alexa from the pool because I'm building a pool controller and we have Sonos speakers and all that. So
yep. So the other thing that I've seen that works decently is they're just to use an Echo Dot, but they have outdoor, like it's almost like a clear plastic shell, and you mount it upside down, so it's inside the shell, so you're not going to get any weather on it. But what you potentially could get is like wasp nests or spiders and stuff. So it could get gross.
Scorpions.
Right, exactly. Yeah. If you live where scorpions live. but people will mount that like up under their deck or patio or something, so it's not going to get wet. But there's the risk of nature for sure. Steph also says, alternatively, your option is always a Raspberry Pi, right? You could build yourself your own just using a Raspberry Pi. All right, we are out of time for today. This has been fantastic. I'm going to go gather up a lot of this feedback and questions and add it to my list. But I think TradeLast is right. We need to do another one of those. Everybody bring all of your problems, concerns, wish list stuff to the office hours, and we'll record as much as we possibly can. So with that, thank you guys all for tuning in. Ryan and Annette, thank you for your time today. And we will we'll see everybody next week. Bye.
Thanks.